Here's 16 business lessons that I learned the hard way so that you don't have to, but if you don't watch this video, you probably will too. Number 1, what's in your head doesn't matter. You get credit for action, not intention. In other words, you might have thought about doing something or had grand plans for something to go a certain way, but if it doesn't actually go that way or you don't actually do it, then it doesn't matter. And so many people hear this as the first lesson and they're like, well, obviously. I'm like, yeah, but do you practice it? Do you actually practice that in your day-to-day life? Let me give you an example. You might think to yourself, well, I didn't intend to say that to that person that way, and they're going to know that that wasn't my intent. Of course they're not. A lot of us want to get credit for our intention, but what we only get credit for is our action. The only thing people actually acknowledge is what we do. So if a conversation didn't go the way that you want it to go, then you need to go and make it right. If you want to get a certain place in business, then you're going to need to go and do something about it. Listen, you can have all the intention in the world and you can manifest and visualize, but if you don't do anything about it, you are not going to make manifest whatever it is that you're trying to create. You have to attach action to the intention that you have. Intent is simply not enough. You actually have to do it and make it unfold the way that you want it to unfold. Number 2, if you don't ask, you won't receive. I see so many aspiring entrepreneurs and people in general in their lives who learn this lesson way too late. They think to themselves, well, if I just do a really good job and I show up every day and I work really hard in this business or at work or at my job or in this relationship, then it's going to go the way that I want it to go. The answer is it might not. If you don't learn to ask for what you want, then you can assure yourself that you're not going to get it. If you want to get the promotion, then you need to go ask for the promotion. If you want to go on a date with this person, then you need to go ask this person out on a date. If you want to get an upgrade for your flight or for your hotel room, you need to ask for it. The most successful people I know unabashedly ask for everything they want. By the way, the worst case scenario is that the person says no or the company says no, but they ask for exactly what they want, which is why they get it most of the time. They're not just hoping that the outcome will be what they want. They're not just hoping that if they show up correctly, then things will unfold. You have to ask for what you want if you actually want to increase your chances that you're going to get there. Number 3, reputation and relationships. I learned this way too late in my career. If I had to wash away everything that I've built, everything that I've created in my businesses and my life, the one thing that I would focus on rebuilding first would be my relationship. Everything good that has come in my life or in my businesses has come from relationships, whether it was people connecting me to other people, or whether it was good advice, or whether it was an opportunity that I wouldn't have had otherwise. It was all because of good relationship. So not only do you need to build and maintain a great reputation as somebody who people would want to be in relationship with, you need to maintain the relationships that you create and go and actively create relationships in your life and in your business. And that should be a number 1 focus for you as you're on this building journey. By the way, as your life progresses and as you become more successful, you might be on the other side of the pendulum where people are trying to get into relationship with you. But that doesn't mean that you should stop trying to go out and find people that you want to learn from, people that you might want to do business with. Shoot, people that are just interesting, that might teach you something because they live a different way or think a different way. Relationships. And always make sure that you are protecting that reputation so that you're always someone that people want to be in relationship with. Number 4, this might get me in a little bit of trouble because this is a hot word right now, but imposter syndrome is not real. It's not real. Everybody feels like a fraud when they haven't done something a lot of times. Do something 1,000 times and then tell me that you actually feel like an imposter. Most of us feel like an imposter because we simply haven't been wherever we are before. I've been in a lot of rooms that I used to dream about, tables that I used to dream about sitting at, and I felt like an imposter the first time I was there. And then eventually everything normalizes. Everything becomes normal and you get used to it, you get comfortable with it, and then it'll feel like you were always meant to be there. It'll feel like you've always been there. and it'll feel normal to you after a certain period. And then you're going to level up and do something else. And then that will have to normalize. Everything normalizes, but you're always going to feel like an imposter at the beginning of anything or at the first time that you've done anything. So if you're feeling like an imposter, instead of getting in your head and creating this lie that you're an imposter or that you shouldn't be there, just say to yourself, this is new. I simply haven't been here before. And this is my mind, my heart, whatever it is, telling me that this is unfamiliar to me. So it's not that I'm an imposter. It's not that I shouldn't be here. It's not that I'm pretending to be somebody else. It's simply that I haven't been here before and I have to get used to being in this room or in this arena or with these people. Number 5 always disappoints people. Success doesn't solve your problems. It simply reveals them. Success does not solve your problems. It simply reveals them. In fact, I have a saying. I coach so many entrepreneurs, startups, executives, and companies. And I always say that every founder builds their company in their image. So if you are someone who's coaching a founder or you're someone who's advising a founder, one of the easiest ways to understand whatever the business is lacking is to understand what the founder is lacking. We don't get to escape the things that are our flaws as human beings. And by the way, we all have them. This isn't a bad thing. We will all have these things. I have them in my own businesses. Awareness is key, but so many people think that if they just become successful, if they just build the business or the business makes it or they make it, that it's going to erase everything. It's going to erase all their problems and everything is going to get better. That's absolutely not how it goes. Success reveals more of whatever was there before. It's often why I also tell people that this idea that money is the root of all evil, a common saying, or that people are bad or rude or whatever it might be because they made a lot of money. I'm like, no, they were like that before. Money just reveals them the same way that success will reveal you. So if you become very successful in your business or your business blows up or your life blows up or whatever it might be, and you're noticing holes, they were probably there all along. You just didn't choose to acknowledge them. But success creates a spotlight on them and it widens them. So one of the best things that you can do as you're growing is really do the self-work to understand what are some of your flaws, what are some of the things that you're lacking, what do you need to watch out for, where do you need to grow, where do you need to make sure that you have resources around you so that as you become more successful, those holes won't get bigger and bigger and bigger. Number 6, consistency over perfection. Every single time. I will take my consistent, messy, ugly action over your perfection that was never executed every single time. By the time you've come up with the perfect plan or the perfect strategy or the perfect whatever, I've already iterated that thing 7 or 8 times, which means that I'm far more experienced and far more skilled than you. So consistency over perfection every single time. So many people try to get it perfect. And the fact of the matter is you can't get it perfect at the beginning because there's so much that you don't know. You have to actually do the thing in order to learn more, in order to get better. So action actually gets you closer to perfection. Consistency actually gets you closer to perfection, not the other way around. So stop trying to make it perfect. Stop trying to come up with the perfect plan. Stop trying to focus on what would be perfect. Just do it and then do the action consistently enough. And in that consistency, you will eventually find the perfection that you seek. Number 7, if you don't clearly articulate success, then you will never be successful. Similarly, if you don't know where you're going, you're already lost. Favorite sayings by Seneca is that a ship with no direction doesn't care which way the wind blows. If you don't define success for yourself, success will be defined for you and you might not like the outcome. By the way, there are people all around you who are trying to define what success means to you. This is what it means to be successful. This is what a successful life looks like. And by the way, you might achieve that because you never defined what success is for yourself. And then you get there and you feel empty or unfulfilled. And that's simply because you never defined or asked yourself, what does success actually mean to me? And by the way, this should look different for every single person. Everyone's success should look a little bit different. You should define what that actually means to you. One of the top ways that I see entrepreneurs and business owners struggle is that they never do this critical step. They never define what success means to them. And because of that, it also means that they have trouble knowing when to start or knowing when to stop. If you're a person who constantly feels restless, if you're someone who always feels feels like you can't relax or there's more to do or you feel guilty for taking a day off, you probably haven't clearly defined success. Because once you do that, once you clearly define what it is that you're trying to achieve or what success means to you, well, the cool thing about that is that you can work backwards and clearly define what actions you should be taking every single day in order to take steps towards that. And once you do that, then you'll know when you can stop. And if you haven't defined success, how do you know when you're finished? How do you know when to put the football down? How do you know when you've had enough or when you're off track? The answer is you won't. And so you will always feel like you're failing or like you're in chaos and madness because you have no direction. The only way to know if you're on track is to clearly define what your destination is going to be so that you can take the critical steps that you need to take every single day in order to get there. Number 8, comfort is a slow death and motivation isn't real. So many people are waiting to be motivated or waiting for the inspiration to strike or waiting for this magical thing to happen that's going to get them doing what they know they should be doing today. And that's never going to happen. Motivation happens through action. You will get more motivated the more you do the thing. If you're trying to write a book, the best way to get motivated to write it is to start writing. Start writing a couple shitty pages every single day, and eventually you might start getting motivated and you might start hitting a rhythm where you're writing even better. If you're trying to get motivated on social media, start posting consistently, and the more you do that, the more you see what people engage with and interact with and what they like, the more consistent that you'll start to be and the more inspiration you'll get as to what you want to do. And if you wait because it feels uncomfortable or because it feels unnatural, you're simply never going to do it. Comfort is a slow death and motivation isn't real. If you constantly do things to stay within your comfort zone, you will never build the life that you want to live, because everything new, everything that's hard, everything that's innovative, everything that's on the other side of your comfort zone is what you seek. So you have to get out of that comfort zone and stop waiting for this magical motivation to come along and just get started today. Number 9, math doesn't lie and intuition can't be quantified. I tell business owners all the time, the path is in the math. You have to understand the math of your business. There's no getting around that. And by the way, the math in business isn't all that complicated. There are a lot of really smart people out there who would probably want you to think differently, but it's pluses and minuses, it's X's and O's, it's not that complicated. And so you need to understand the math of your business. How many dollars does it take to create this product? If I don't know that, then I'm not going to know how much I can sell it for. How many hours does it take to create this thing? How many people do I need to create it and what do I pay them? If I don't know the math of those things, then there's no way for me to ever build a profitable business. And there is no point where it makes initial or subsequent sense to invest money, time, or energy into a business that will never be profitable. So you need to understand your math so that you can build it correctly and so that you can hold people accountable. And the flip side to this coin is that intuition can't be quantified. Sometimes you're going to just know things. As someone who knows your business, as someone who created this thing, as someone who knows what you want to do in your life, as someone who is receiving the inspiration to do whatever the thing is, sometimes you're just going to know in your soul, in your gut, that there is something that's right for you. You need to listen to that and you need to follow that. By the way, this might be a little bit woo-woo for you, but I'm telling you, if you don't listen to it, then that intuition, which is such a powerful force in your life and in your business, starts to go away. So when that happens, sometimes it's not going to make sense, or sometimes it won't make sense in the moment, but make sure you take it into account, because your intuition as a business owner and your intuition as someone who's trying to build the life that you are trying to build is absolutely real, and you need to listen to it. 10, you're not going to like me for this one. Appearances matter. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but appearances matter. There is study after study after study after study that prove that in business, in life, appearances matter. And by the way, every time I teach this to a college or to a business, or every time I talk about this on stage, people are like, well, what about Mark Zuckerberg? Or what about all these billionaires who wear like sweatpants and hoodies? I'm like, well, when you are a billionaire, you can dress like that too. But before before that happens, appearances matter. How you show up in a room speaks for who you are before you start to speak. People see you before they know anything else about you. If you are showing up and you're not put together and you're looking a little bit sloppy or you're looking a little bit disheveled, you better believe that you have to be that much more impressive as a human being in order for people to look past that. And oftentimes they can't. So put yourself together, show up in a way that you are proud of, show up in a way that people are going to remember you and recognize you in a way that is professional, because appearances matter and that is never going away. Number 11, there is never only one way, but you do need to figure out your way. And here's what I mean by this. I see often in businesses, especially when people are true entrepreneurs, meaning like they're constantly innovating, they're constantly ideating, they're constantly coming up with new ideas, and they're constantly trying new things. Well, you never actually get traction enough anywhere that you can create any type of forward movement or forward momentum in that thing. So I'm not saying that there's only one way to do something, but you do need to find whatever your way is and stick to it for long enough that you can actually tell whether it works or not. I see so often in business that people will do something in their business through process or whatever it may be, and they think it doesn't work, and it's simply because they just haven't given it long enough. You need to actually do something for long enough to see that it works or not. So again, not only one way to do a thing, but you do need to figure out whatever your way is, and again, stick to it for long enough that you can see whether it actually works or not. Number 12, shiny objects are sharp. I have this saying in my business often. I say to my team, shiny objects are sharp. In other words, we don't earn the right to start looking at this new project or this new business or this new way of doing something until we've mastered whatever is in front of us. Because it's easy to get distracted by a better way, or distracted by a new business, or distracted by a fun project, or distracted by something that looks a whole lot like distraction and not a lot like work. The truth is that if you want to make forward progress in your business or in your life, or pretty much anywhere, it's usually pretty boring. Forward progress usually isn't fun. It looks a lot like doing the same thing consistently every single day in order to get to where you want to go. So it's not usually sexy. It's not usually exciting. It usually looks a lot like work and consistency. And so for you, if you are constantly looking at different shiny objects and you're constantly getting distracted by different things in your life or in your business, I want you to remember that shiny objects are sharp. And if you grab too many of them, you're going to get cut. Number 13, communicate or die. If there is one skill that I would tell everyone to get better at, to constantly level themselves up in, to constantly grow in, it would be communication. There is one thing that we all have in common in life and in business, and it is that we constantly have to communicate. You have to learn to communicate, or your vision or the business or your pitch, it's never going to come to life because you don't know how to bring it to life through your words. Communication is far and away one of the most important skills that you could have. And I can assure you that more than anything else, more than any other skill, it will get you to where you want to go. Number 14, trust isn't complex, but it is vital. I always laugh when companies are like, well, how do we build trust with the customer? I'm like, well, it's pretty easy. You just do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. That's how you build trust. That's how you build trust in business. That's how you build trust in relationships. That's how you build trust literally anywhere. You simply do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. I always use Amazon as the example here. The reason that we intrinsically trust Amazon as a company, as a provider, is because they do something very simple that builds trust. They always have what we're looking for, and it always gets to us on time. By the way, I never call Jeff Bezos and say, thanks so much, Jeff, for getting me my package on time. I expect, because I trust the company, that it's going to arrive on my doorstep when it said it was going to arrive. And by the way, every time it doesn't, every time it's delayed or late, which totally happens in business, they send me a message and say, here's what's going on, here's what to expect. Not to say you have to be perfect, but if it's not going the way that they told me it was going to go, the way that they promised it was going to go, they give me an update on that too. So trust isn't all that hard to build. It's very simple, but it's not always easy to execute if you don't have forethought in how you're going to build it. So think about how you would build trust in your life and with your customer, execute on that consistently, but it looks a lot like doing what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. Number 15, you make change or change makes you. What I tell people often is you can resist change all you want. Like you can fight the change of the world, of the business, of the economy, whatever it is, but it's changing. So you can either decide if you want to participate in that change, if you want to be proactive in that change, or you can be on the receiving end of that change. In other words, you can make it even harder on yourself to be in front of it. You can make it even harder on yourself to pivot by resisting the change that is inevitably coming. The one consistency that we all have in life is that it is constantly changing. So you can either make the change or the change makes you. In other words, you are on the receiving end of the change. Change happens to you as opposed to you being proactive and using it as a strategic advantage in your life or in your business. Number 16, the person who asks the best questions wins. One common thread that I see in every successful person that I've been around, every billionaire that I've spent time with, they ask questions incessantly. They are constantly curious. And by the way, they don't care all too much about who's on the other side of the table. They tend to be silent in the conversation other than the questions that they ask. They are constantly looking to learn. They are constantly looking to find the edge. They ask great questions to understand, and they're not afraid about looking stupid. So many people think that if they ask a question, that it's going to make them look stupid. But it's actually the opposite. If you don't ask the question, you can assure yourself that you aren't going to have clarity or aren't going to know the answer. And then you're actually going to be stupid. You're actually going to be in the dark on that thing. You actually won't know the answer to it. So ask questions. And by the way, ask good questions. You should be practicing every single day how to ask better questions, even in your day-to-day conversations. One of the most powerful things that I've done in my career is early on, I spent every single day just writing out 10 different questions that I could ask people. And before I'm about to go to a meeting with somebody new, especially if it's somebody that I admire, one of the things that I do is I write out about 20 to 25 different questions that I absolutely want to know the answer to in that conversation, so that I can make sure that I'm walking into it with questions prepared, that I have forethought about what it is that I'm trying to learn, so that I'm not just talking the whole time, I'm actually there to learn from that person. I hope these have been helpful for you. I learned most of these the hard way. I'm hoping by watching this video that you won't have to. If you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe, send this to a friend, and we'll see you next time.